Howdy and good afternoon. Today on Public Eye News, Marquette County's Health Department changes COVID-19 quarantine from 14 days to 10 days, and an update on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Later, Megan Tarcia will have your weather, and Max Stevens will have your sports. Hi, I'm Nate Jacobs, and this is Public Eye News. The Marquette County Health Department is changing some of its pandemic-related protocol. As reported by WNMU-TV, the county is adjusting their recommended COVID-19 quarantine time to only 10 days. Late last year in December, the CDC changed their policy from 14 days to 10. There are a handful of reasons behind the quarantine changes, including personal burdens that may affect personal and mental health associated with the 14-day absence. Economic hardships with the quarantine period were also taken into account. Increased exposure to the COVID-19 virus in relation to decreased quarantine time is a difficult subject to study, which led to the decision by the Marquette County Health Department. And according to WNMU-TV, there was an officer involved in a shooting last Monday night in Houghton County. Michigan State Police arrived on the scene on 21st Street in Hubble after there were reports of shots fired outside a residence. A 28-year-old woman was shot after brandishing a gun, refusing officers' orders to drop the weapon, and attempting to re-enter the home. The suspect was airlifted to a Green Bay hospital where she currently remains in critical condition. There's an ongoing investigation on the encounter by the Michigan State Police 7th District Investigative Response Team. Officers involved in the shooting are on administrative leave as per the department's protocol on such matter. And the over-the-counter healthcare company Perrigo is breaking ground today in downstate Michigan. Perrigo, the Ireland-based company, is working on a new North American headquarters based in western Michigan near Grand Rapids. They currently have ties and production facilities in Allegan and Holland, Michigan, and employ roughly 4,000 people. Offices will be located on the Medical Mile, part of Michigan State University's Innovation Park. The headquarters will be in close proximity to the Spectrum Health Hospital and the Van Andel Institute. Murray Kessler, the Perrigo president and CEO, stated their commitment to consumer self-care and Michigan remains steadfast. And after this break, we'll be back with your national and international news.
Masters of stealth. Leopards are solitary creatures, but this is no ordinary leopard. She is a mother, a force of nature, protector, provider, and teacher. And in this African adventure, she'll do whatever it takes to preserve her legacy.
Tonight at 8.
Welcome back. The Coast Guard searched for 12 missing sailors after a 175-foot commercial lift boat capsized in hurricane-force winds yesterday off the coast of Louisiana. They were able to rescue the 6 survivors from the rough seas and found 1 crew member dead. According to Coast Guard Captain Will Watson, winds were approaching 100 miles per hour when the ship overturned. He is still hopeful they can find the remaining crew. And in Wisconsin, 3 middle school teachers have resigned after asking an inappropriate and sensitive question to their students. An investigation reports the teachers put together a lesson asking their students how they would punish slaves in the Mesopotamia time period. The teachers were allowed to resign, although are currently on paid administrative leave for the remainder of the year. And European countries diverged today on whether they would push ahead with giving their residents Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine after reports of a very rare blood clot in a handful of recipients in the United States. While some European Union members put the vaccine on hold as recommended, Poland, France, and Hungary said they would go ahead and administer the doses that they had arrived as they face continuing pressure to speed up their immunization drives. And Mumbai and other parts of the Indian state worst hit by the pandemic face stricter restrictions for 15 days starting today in an effort to stem the surge of coronavirus infections. Top state officials stressed that the closure of most industries, businesses, public places, and limits on the movement of people didn't constitute a lockdown. India has detected over 180,000 new infections in the past 24 hours. India has so far confirmed over 13.9 million cases and 172,000 dead in what is most likely an undercount. And just a day after a Minnesota police officer resigned for shooting a 20-year-old man at a traffic stop, she's now being charged with second-degree manslaughter. Omar Villafranca has the latest from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
Protesters took to the streets for a third night in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, the city where Daunte Wright was killed at a traffic stop by Officer Kim Potter. Officer Potter was a 26-year veteran of the police force. Along with Police Chief Tim Gannon, Potter offered her resignation Tuesday, saying in a letter she believes it is in the best interest of the community, the department, and my fellow officers if I resign immediately.
Why was she allowed to resign, and why didn't you fire her instead?
We were going through our own processes to make sure that we had all of the documentation in order to be able to do that.
We don't think it's fair that she can kill him and say, I made a mistake, and then resign and keep all her benefits, all her pensions.
And I never imagined this is what was going to happen. I just thought maybe he was being arrested.
Kate Wright, Daunte's mother, said she was on the phone with the woman who was in the car with her son moments after the shooting.
And it was on a FaceTime. And she said, she was crying and screaming, and she said that they shot him. And then she pointed the phone towards the driver's seat, and my son was laying there, unresponsive.
Police say Daunte Wright had been pulled over for an expired vehicle tag. They say officers tried to arrest him when they learned of an outstanding warrant and that he resisted. Police say Officer Kim Potter, who had been training a new officer, thought she reached for her taser. But she fired a gun instead.
The mayor asked the state attorney general to take over the case, but the state AG says he's confident the Washington County DA can handle the case. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
Investigators are still trying to determine whether the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is linked to a handful of blood clotting cases. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
The CDC's advisory committee is holding an emergency hearing looking into the Johnson & Johnson vaccine after rare blood clots developed in at least 6 women who had the shot. The chief medical officer for Janssen Pharmaceuticals told the committee it is working to revise the label on the vaccine to warn of potential risks.
While causality has not been fully established between these very rare events and our vaccine, we recognize these events could represent an important potential risk with the Janssen vaccine.
All 50 states have agreed to follow the CDC's recommendation, but in a private call with the White House, some state leaders voiced concerns the decision could increase vaccine hesitancy.
The ability for governors to reinstill confidence after something like this is 100 times harder than putting the pause on in the first place.
Surgeon General Vivek Murthy defended the decision on CBS this morning.
To have a chance to do the actual investigation to see if there's a real link. And the second is to have that time to communicate with healthcare professionals about what to look for, but also how to treat these conditions.
The CDC Advisory Committee is scheduled to vote on updated recommendations for use later this afternoon.
We believe that by empowering Americans with data and facts, we will strengthen the public's trust in government and increase their confidence in the vaccines.
Doctors say people who have received the J&J vaccine in the last 3 weeks need to be on the lookout for symptoms. Those include severe headaches, difficulty moving, shortness of breath, and pain in the legs or abdomen. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
After this break, we'll be right back with your weather and sports.
On American Experience.
He was ambitious and he had an amazing imagination.
But he failed at almost everything but writing children's books.
The true wizard behind the curtain.
This is our national fairy tale.
And it speaks to children today as clearly as it did back in 1900.
American Oz on American Experience.
Monday night at 9. Welcome back to Public Eye News. I'm Megan Tarcia here with your weather. Some of you may have woken up to an inch of snow this morning, but as you can see behind me, it has melted. Looking into today's conditions, it is light rain with a temperature of 34 degrees. Our winds are north-northwest at 12 miles per hour, and our barometric pressure is 30.01 inches and falling. Tonight's conditions will be strong winds with snow showers. Our low of 33 degrees, and winds will be north-northwest at 21 miles per hour. Looking into tomorrow's conditions, we will have snow showers in the morning time, a high of 37 degrees, and our winds will be north-northwest at 20 miles per hour. Looking across the UP, starting over in Sault Ste. Marie, it is 41 with snow showers. Manistee at 40 with snow and rain showers. Escanaba at 40 with rain. Down in Menominee, it is 46 with rain. Iron Mountain at 40 with cloudy skies. Ironwood as well at 40 with cloudy skies. Up in Houghton, it is 41 and cloudy. And here in Marquette, it is 37 with rain and snow showers. Looking ahead at our weekly conditions, starting with Friday, it'll be a high of 39 and a low of 33 with cloudy skies. Saturday will be a high of 40 degrees and a low of 33 with mostly cloudy skies. And Sunday will be a high of 45 degrees and a low of 34 with partly cloudy skies. Now going over to Max Stevens with our sports.
Thank you, Megan. The Milwaukee Brewers will be without a pair of outfielders for the next short while, as in yesterday's 3-2 loss to the Chicago Cubs, outfielder Lorenzo Cain suffered a strained left quad that took him out of the game after just 2 innings. This morning, the Brewers moved Cain to the 10-day injured list and are also still without star outfielder Christian Yelich, who today will miss his 3rd straight game after getting knocked out of Sunday's game with a back injury. The Detroit Tigers, meanwhile, despite being short in starting pitching and losing Miguel Cabrera, smoked the Houston Astros for the 2nd game in a row last night, 8-2. The Tigers hit 5 home runs in the victory that will give them their first series win in Houston since 2013. Major League Baseball is also further experimenting with rule changes as it has once again partnered with the independent Atlantic Baseball League to test game changes. Beginning August 3rd, the Atlantic League will be moving the pitching rubber back by 1 foot to 61 feet 6 inches away from the plate in an attempt to give hitters more time to react to pitches. This is intended to combat rising strikeout rates, which have increased for 15 straight years. Strikeouts have exceeded hits the past 3 seasons after never before occurring in Major League history. In addition, the Atlantic League will be implementing a double hook rule, where a team will also lose their designated hitter when it removes its starting pitcher from the game. The goal is to keep starters in the game longer, creating more value at the position and increasing late-game strategy. The double hook rule will be in effect for the entire season, which begins on May 27th. And the Georgia High School Athletic Association has levied a $7,500 fine against Valdosta High School, imposed a postseason ban, and declared some players ineligible after an investigation into whether or not the school used ineligible players. The investigation was prompted by comments made by Valdosta head coach Rush Probst on a secretly recorded conversation in which he indicated he needed money to help pay for living expenses of players' families who wanted to move to Valdosta. Probst is no stranger to controversy. He's long been one of the most successful high school football coaches in the country, but his decorated career has been marred with scandals along the way. After winning 5 state championships at Hoover High School in Alabama, he resigned in 2007 after an investigation alleged improprieties in his program. He later won 2 more state championships with Colquitt County High in Georgia, but was fired in 2019 after the school board alleged ethics violations. And as we wind things down here on Public Eye News, we have a doozy of a story for you. A Georgia man found himself in quite the coinundrum when his former employer dumped over 90,000 pennies at the end of his driveway as a form of final payment for his work at an auto shop. Andreas Flatten was owed $915 from OK Walker Auto Works in Peachtree City, Georgia, and finally got his pay earlier this month in the form of grease-covered pennies with a final pay stub and an obscenity-filled goodbye note. When the Washington-based company Coinstar heard about the predicament, they picked up all the coins and rounded it up, returning a $1,000 check and made donations to 2 animal shelters of Flatten's choosing. And with that, that's all the time we have for you on this edition of Public Eye News. Thanks so very much for joining us today, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.